first thing I can remember about really learning about the Civil War was someone saying that it was the South was fighting to keep its own way of life. And so for me, it was, well, what's its own way of life? And you think these Southern values and all these different things that the Confederacy upheld. One of those things was slavery.
The work of the Confederate remembrance groups, stories that perpetuate the ideal of the lost South, don't tell the full story.
Since the Confederacy was established explicitly to protect slavery, this would mean that any memorials to the Confederacy are memorializing the creation of structures to preserve slavery. After the Civil War, after the Confederacy had been destroyed by the Army of the United States of America, Southern states tried to reinstate as much of the coercive labor systems that they could with things called the Black Codes, which basically restricted movement, restricted the ways in which African Americans could earn a living. Beginning in the 1890s, white Southerners who had reestablished control over these states decided that they had to create symbols of white supremacy. They felt that because there was a younger, new generation of African Americans who had been born after emancipation, what white Southerners realized was that they had to put these people in their place. And the first thing they did was they began to disfranchise African Americans, which began around 1890. The other thing they did was establish the system that was called Jim Crow. The statues, the memorials, were a way of inscribing in public space to remind Black Southerners who was in charge, to remind white Southerners not only of who was in charge, but the world, what was the world that they supposedly had lost. So between 1890 and the 1920s was a period when white Southerners felt these insecurities. This was the period of maximum lynching.
So when we look at the issue around Confederate statues, people being concerned that the destruction of these memorials and statues is a rewriting of the story of the South, that rewriting has been taking place for generations. It is just now hitting the public sphere in terms of how people are able to see it around them. And the things that we need to realize is that what you see in your environment affects your perception. So if we continue to have icons of racism, icons of systemic oppression without providing the historical context, we will risk perpetuating those stories and those stereotypes. When we put things out there that contradict that muddy up the narrative a little bit and force us to reconsider the story, that's when we get a different environment, or environment more reflective of the diverse population of America and the diverse contributions people have made to the American story.
We have made a lot of strides, significant strides, but we still have so much further to go. And we have to have those ugly conversations, and that's the only way that we're going to be able to live together. I'm not really sure how we could approach teaching that in school unless the education system was really wanting to tell some difficult truths and have some conversations that needed to be had with everyone, instead of packaging it in this pretty little bow when we really need to get to the meat of the things that happen and really sort of do what things like books like Roots and things of that nature did, and let people know the atrocities that were going on with African Americans or Black people in this country. It's a conversation that's not going to be too pretty, but it's one that we need to have.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, check out these other videos from USA Today to stay up to date with all the latest news.